Okay, we've got the man, the myth, the legend, restaurant prosperity formula author, and one of my favorite, you know what, not one of, the favorite speaker for me to hear when it comes to restaurants, David Scott Peters. Welcome.
Thank you, my friend. You are too kind, and I'm only infamous in my own brain. That's where it's a small world.
I hear you there. So what I want to talk to you about today is a topic I've been using recently on my audio podcast. I used to have this tagline, you know, helping restaurants find more frequent customers because infrequent customers don't pay the damn bills. And then I thought about it and I thought, actually, 70% what we see, 50 to 70% of the revenue coming into a restaurant is from infrequent customers, new and lost customers. They come rarely. And that's actually all they're doing is helping pay the bills. And so the money that goes after the bills is that incremental profit that allows you to scale your team, scale your lifestyle, scale your brand.
Right.
And those are the things I realized that I changed that up. So now I talk a lot about, hey, we want to help you find more frequent customers so that you can find the promised land. So you can finally pay yourself a paycheck. So you can finally get yourself out of a job and actually run a business. And then maybe at some point you can scale the company bigger and better. You see that a lot in the restaurant space, I'm sure, with regards to owners that think they're an owner when in fact they're just the number one employee.
Right. The biggest challenge we see is a lot of us grew up in this industry or have moved up in this industry. And so in times of stress, we're the best server, host, busser, food runner at the same time. We're the best line cook, prep cook, whatever is better than anybody. And what we do is we end up working down as a restaurant owner. And when you're doing a line employee's job, you're working down, which means you're not working on budgets, marketing, leading the team, developing your managers, hold them accountable. You're filling in line position. You're saving $15 an hour, but losing thousands, leading no one, just kind of becoming a prisoner to your business because you're doing the same shit every single day. And it's not what you decide, you dreamed of. When you thought about your restaurant, man, I'm going to open this restaurant. I'm going to make money. I'm going to have life. I'm going to come and go when I want. This is going to be awesome. And next thing you know, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And the problem is you created it because we get stuck into the I call it superhero syndrome. It's like da 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 da, pop, 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 open up my shirt and pop all the buttons, and I've got the super S on my chest, and I can fix anything. And the problem is you can. That means nobody thinks, nobody learns, everybody expects you to do it, and you are going to do it. And that's tough. It's really tough.
No, it is. And I know that lifestyle. I mean, ironically, when I started this company in 2008, my goal was to have no employees because I had a boat dealership for 9 years before that. And everybody I ever hired got fired. We crashed and burned during the economic plunge in 2008. I mean, if you thought it was hard to sell things then, like try selling freaking pleasure boats in the middle of that when the banks weren't even permitted to finance them sometimes. But when I started this company, I said, okay, I'm going to be an outsourced marketing consultant. I'm going to be an outsourced, like an at-large marketing director. I have no employees. Well, that backfired because we hired somebody yesterday. Somebody starts the 20th. We're approaching 60 people. But there was a time when I realized I was going to hire. And I went from like myself and Ashley, who you've met, and we went to 5, 6 people, then 10 people. And when I got to like that 10-person realm, even though I thought I had a company and I was the CEO, the president, whatever you want to call yourself, I was an employee, and I was tied to everything. Like anybody had a question, I had to be involved. And what I found out about a lot of it from talking to guys like yourself, because I've always had business coaches, is that I was the problem, is that I thought I had to be. Like I was the log in the water because I had this ego, this perception that only I could freaking click an email. Only I could create a text message. Only I could give the advice for a great Facebook campaign.
Right. And that is very much what happens to all entrepreneurs. It's even harder for a restaurant owner because all of it's happening at the same time. You may have 15, 30, 40, 100 employees working at the same time, and you're trying to coordinate it all versus as you and I start off, you can start off by yourself. And then you can add another person. You can add another person because we're not having customers walk in our door through hours upon hours. Like when you're a restaurant, man, you're on all the time. And one of the things that I think about is, and I really spend a lot of time helping restaurant owners, is finding the ability to get out of their business. So restaurant prosperity, as you brought up my book, Restaurant Prosperity Formula, what successful restaurateurs do, is based on one goal in mind which is freedom from your restaurant and the financial freedom you deserve.
Yep.
And the big flip there is freedom from your restaurant. The only way you can have freedom from your restaurant is you got to have managers in place, you've got to have systems in place and hold people accountable. But there's really a step really before all that. And that is, I always tell people, and you've been to my seminar, I say, you've got to have an implementer. Restaurant owners, will not get you to learn the systems and implement them. I can get you to learn them.
Yep.
I can get you to hold people accountable, support people, but you need somebody, a right-hand person, excuse my French, somebody who gets shit done,
Yep.
an implementer. And this is somebody who can start and finish a project, loves to learn, loves you and the company, kind of carries the flag, wants to grow with you. They're able to train others. They're able to hold them accountable with your assistance. So they're not always a manager. If you're a smaller restaurant and you're thinking, man, I don't have any managers. Well, you just need a key person that's going to learn with you and implement the systems for you and train others, and with your help, hold people accountable. If you're a little larger, it's probably a manager. But I've had members who have used lead servers because they felt their management team, nobody fit that bill.
Okay.
Because it is a unique person, somebody who's very project oriented, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So you said freedom from your restaurant. And what was the last part of that?
And the financial freedom you deserve. So freedom's the big word there, right?
Yep.
Time away to spend with your family, to be present, go out to dinner, actually go out to dinner with friends and family and not get that text message and get up in the middle of it and come outside and get on a phone call, come back and everybody's finished dinner when you actually went out. Like, it's really harsh for many of us in the restaurant profession to come home and not be present. Like, it creates resentment. It makes you feel bitter. It makes the people who around you think like, man, you don't care about us, when it's the opposite. We think as restaurant operators, we're helping take care of our family by taking care of the restaurant. And the truth of the matter is, you just spend too much time. So freedom, anybody listening to us right now, freedom for your restaurant is your number one priority. In order to get that, you have systems in place, managers in place, and you are making money. And I will tell you, in my 20-year journey on this, I used to be the systems guy. I was David Scott Peters, the systems guy, systems, prime cost, numbers. Oh yeah, life. And when I was bought out of my company, and I've been doing this now, I guess 3-4 years now, everything switched. Writing that book was realize it's about you first.
Yep.
If we make you the priority, then everything else falls into line. And again, kind of to backtrack, this is where an implementer is so important. That person, that right-hand person that will actually do the work, critical to your success.
Yeah. And I see this, I've seen this at so many levels of my company, and I can relate exactly what you said. I'm glad you said it, because like I was able to scale 1 employee, 2 employees. You open a restaurant with 40 tables. I mean, hey, there's 30 people you got to have.
Right.
So you're thrust into there and you got to learn it. But with my company, what I've seen is like my first levels were years ago promoting Ashley to be in charge of stuff. And then she became in charge of a lot of stuff. And then, it was me traveling with this device, filming myself at events. And then it became David. And then I hired Max, and then Peter, and then Connor. And there's departments now, but hell, even recently, Doug Smith that you've met on my team is now our COO of one company. And John Parker started 2 weeks ago as the COO of another. And the whole idea was, I've got all these ideas and all these visions, and I love working in my business. I think that's the problem. A lot of restaurants, they all love it. We're all hardcore entrepreneurs. But I had to find a way to get things off my plate so I could make the company better and more stable. And I had somebody, and that's why I hired these 2 COOs. And I had a guy asked me today, he's a restaurant owner. He's like, I got a question for you. He's like, I followed you. I see your stuff. You could have probably went a lot of different paths. Why the hell did you choose restaurants to help with marketing? I said, honestly, because I think I relate more to them. Like I enjoy 80 to 100-hour weeks. I mean, there's a sickness, I think, in some of us that's our hobby. And I said, I enjoy it. And I watch restaurant owners and they work their asses off. And if you're, especially the last 3 to 4 years with the pandemic, like if the people that gave up the first couple months probably wanted to give up. The people who stuck it out through multiple shutdowns and every different change and every restriction and are sitting here in 2023 are more than likely a pretty big badass when it comes to running a business.
And that's, I talk about that in the book. I say the most successful restaurant operators I've worked with have 2 personality traits. And that's passion for hospitality and persistence.
Yeah.
Like if you are somebody who survived through COVID, if you survived the shortages on product, you survived the labor shortage, you survived the wages going up, you surviving inflation now, you've got this burning desire. Like you love hospitality, creating memories for people, and nothing's going to stop you, for better or for worse. I mean, sometimes we beat our head against the wall too long. I had a call with one of my member mentors, Steve Eller, the other day, and he talked about, David, sometimes you do is you take the hope out of it and you put realism in. Because when we go into budget, sometimes we hold on to hope. If I just bring in another customer, if I just do this, hang on a little longer, it's going to turn. And then when we get into the numbers and we look at it and we go, either, yeah, that's absolutely the case, or holy shit, your occupancy cost is through the roof. You owe too much money. Like there's not so much hope. And sometimes that's a better message for many, because passion in hospitality and persistence, sometimes we go too long. Like we just go too long unless we're going to fix it. And that's a part of where the numbers come in, where I come in. Is like, can you fix it? Is it fixable? Is it worth your time and energy? And 99.99% of the time it is. But I will tell you, probably 3 times a year, I tell somebody, I get to their budget and I go, you need to close. Like it is, you have dug a hole so deep, it's not worth your time, and that's sad.
And I've had that conversation myself with our business when we had our boat dealership in 2008, when the economy collapsed. Like we went from 1.4 million in sales July of 07 to 48 grand July of 08. And it happened really quick. And me and my dad and brother lost $1 million each, cash gone.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there in September, and my dad's he won't quit, like won't give up. And he had put together this really badass plan that was going to restructure the company, do this. And our attorney said, just close the damn business. Like you could probably do it. But looking at the environmental climate, like I see you guys are a small potato compared to what I'm seeing in this big world of the housing market that's going to crash really, really soon. It crashed in 09. Is that you have to have those hard conversations sometimes, and they're hard. What I like to hear from you, and what I love, I want to hear more about this, is I talked to a restaurant the other day. Actually, won't call them a restaurant, a product. They sell a product to restaurants, really kick-ass brownies and cool stuff. And I was talking to this company, and the guy's like, Matt, I got a question. Like you've mentioned in our couple of conversations that you have 3 coaches, because I have 3 business coaches personally. And I've had coaches since 2016. He's like, why do you need a coach? I said, well, I look at it this way. As an entrepreneur, I'm willing to do the work. I'll run through a glass wall. If that's what they say to do, I'll do it. But at the same time, for me, a coach is like, it's like Garmin, it's like the GPS. It's like, hey, watch out. There's a pothole here. Hey, there's a speed bump here. Hey, this. Talk about the importance of restaurants having a David Scott Peters and somebody like you in their corner that's been there, done that, and bought the t-shirt 10 times.
It starts with, you don't know what you don't know. And so, we can learn. In the restaurant industry, we learn every single day. In fact, I will tell you, you're probably cheaper to go get an education at Harvard University than it is to open a restaurant, because every mistake you make costs you money. Whose money? Your money. I'm sure it was cheaper to go to Harvard than run a restaurant for 10 years and learn by mistake, change, learn by mistake, change, learn mistake, don't change, do it again. And then, eventually somebody hits us with a bat and we go, oh, change.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, it's that lack of knowledge. We don't know what we don't know, that you can buy speed. You have somebody who's already been down the path that goes boom. And I will tell you, I have coaches too, because I want to learn. And the truth of the matter is, often my coaches, when they say something, why do you do that, David? Oh, because that's the way I've always done it. Most dangerous phrase in anybody's business. And they go, but because when you're outside somebody's 4 walls, you can see everything. Nobody's caught up in relationships and, whose bill's not being paid and what's coming up and the challenges with whatever construction. They're just like, this doesn't make any sense. And so when you have a coach, they can also see your business from a very point A to point B, logical numbers kind of way, and go, why do you do that? Yep. The other part is, without a coach, who holds us accountable? You and I have talked, for a while there. I rode in high school and college, the sport of crew, And I bought oar boards with which are these stand-up paddle boards with a rowing unit on top. You came out and visited me. We went out on that, and I found the bug again after 30 something years. I rowed in high school and college. 30 something years. COVID got me back on that, and next thing you know, I sold those puppies, and I've been rowing for almost 2 years now and organized in a club again. And all of a sudden, my body changed. I mean, I dropped 30 something, almost 40 pounds. I'm doing all things I haven't done. But you know what? I wake up at 3:45 every morning because why? I have a coach. I have to show up at 5 a.m. The coach tells me what the workout is. I say yes, I'm being a good teammate, and I just do.
Yep.
I'm smart enough. That's the other part, is that discipline. I know what to do. I've been a high level athlete, D1 athlete, but you know what? Sometimes I need somebody to say, just freaking do it. Okay, I'll do it. So when you put that in perspective, if you're a restaurant owner and you're just trying to do everything yourself, you don't have an outside perspective. You don't know what you don't know. You don't have the accountability, because we can make excuses why we didn't get something done. And sometimes you don't have the kick in the pants. Like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. You and I have known each other now for a couple of years, and I'm not the tapper in your face on TV kind of guy, but I'm not going to take any bullshit. It's like, come on now, let's get this done. And I think that makes a difference for many people. Again, I may not be the right coach for everybody. I like to think so, but because of my personality, there's a nice thing. There are a variety of people out there now. When I started 20 years ago, it was restaurantowner.com and me. That was it. Now everybody's throwing up the flag up the pole going, hey, I'm a coach.
Yeah. Cool.
As long as you help somebody, I don't give a shit. There's plenty of restaurants.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I love the term buy speed, because you're exactly right. Like I was on this past Sunday night. I was on the Food That Built America with the History Channel, and honored to be on it. It's cool as shit. I was blown away by how well it turned out. But I had tagged a friend of mine online in a post that he made about his business, Billy Jane Shaw, a guy out of California, that when I met him in 2016 as a coach, one of the first things he said was, get on video. He's like, Matt, you're not creating content. You're not storytelling. You're not using the internet how it's meant to be used. And so I got on video, and I sucked early on. And then he told me why I sucked. And then he helped me get better, and I got better and better. So I had a friend of mine text me tonight and said, hey man, I'd love to hear the story, how you got on the History Show. That's so cool. And I'm like, well, it's a long ass story, because it wasn't one or two or three or four. It was hundreds of things that got me there.
Right.
And it all started with a coach. That I had a successful business. I was myself and a couple employees. I was making plenty of money. But I was getting texts and calls 7 days a week. In the marketing world, I had restaurant owners, I had clients that I was their contact. And so I know that lifestyle. And when I got that coach, and then I understood what it meant to have somebody in the business that did shit for me, which is the Ashley of the world in my life. That was my implementer. And that's one thing I love that you said. You can buy speed from a coach. And ideally that coach can give you some of the cheat codes or the advice or the expert eyes to help you identify that implementer, and then have them help get stuff off your plate. And then that's what it takes you to get you out of running in the day-to-day and working on it. Right.
Yep. But even when you learn that implementer comes in, somebody's got to execute, again, because we can get overwhelmed. Like I tell people, I suck, I create work. Like, you come through my program, it's like, okay, it's all paced 1 week at a time, and it looks really, it's going to be easy. And I guarantee them, you're going to fall behind. Like, it was a 24-week program that has become a 30-week group coaching calls, because I know you'll fall behind. Restaurant happens, shit happens. And we don't plan for that. We think that everything's an ideal world, and I'm going to load a new system on it. More work, more change. And here's the part about a lot of where a coach can help you as well, is change is uncomfortable. I always do this exercise, make people clasp their hands together. Ever since they were babies, sucking their thumb, right into here. This is the way we've clasped our hands. And then I say, open your hands, shift one finger, close it. And I go, ew, it feels gross. And I go, was it difficult?
God.
Yeah, it feels awful. Yeah, it's like, but was it difficult? No. What was it? Uncomfortable. Yeah. And that change is uncomfortable, and often is what creates the naysayers who go, oh, we're different. We don't need this stuff. This guy doesn't understand. And you buy into the excuses and nothing happens. And so again, this is where The coach can help give you the spine to say, you need to hold people accountable. I mean, by holding you accountable first, because you're the leader of your damn restaurant. You need to become the leader your restaurant needs. That's critical.
So my last question and comment along this line is, you mentioned group coaching, and a few weeks ago turned out pretty cool. I was able to scoot up to Columbus, Ohio, pick up Jake, one of your members from the airport, meet Jeff, who had already Ubered from the airport to Avery's
Another
new
one of my
restaurant.
members.
We all hung out there and had a good time. And I was curious how this works, because I don't know this exact dynamic with you guys or with other groups. But one thing I used to always clamor for in the boat business that we never had is, I had friends of mine that owned car dealerships. They had 20 groups where 20 dealers got together and they compared P&Ls. They compared costs and menu and all that kind of stuff. And I used to tell, we were doing 15 million a year in sales in the boat business. There was a lot of units. And I used to remember talking like Yamaha and Mercury and all of our manufacturers, like, man, what should my overhead be? Like, what should my percent of my rent be to this? What should my employment be? And we never got it. And it literally, I'm sure, cost us millions of dollars. The fact that we didn't have any help. Is that a component of groups like that like the Jeff and Jake and Avery are in with you?
Yeah. So they all started in what I call Restaurant Transformation Intensive, RTI. And that's a 30-week group coaching program. There's lessons and homework to do and so on. But in the group coaching calls, you got somebody in week 1 and week 30, because we talk about anything and any challenge you have, any question, from, hey, what are you doing this POS system, to I got to manage you, I've got a sexual harassment claim, to you name it, doesn't matter. And the magic is, I can share what I know, but I don't know everything. I don't. But all of a sudden, you've got all these other restaurant owners on a call who are literally helping say, oh, I've dealt with that. I've got that solution, so on and so forth. And for the first time in somebody's life, like, you could have entrepreneurial friends, like as a restaurant owner, to go, oh, I got a friend who's got a boat dealer. I got a friend who's got a chiropractor. I got all this stuff. And they want to give you advice. And you immediately put up a wall and go, you don't freaking understand.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you talk to restaurant owners running the same gambit you are. It's like, oh shit. Yeah. And there's this comfort, like, I'm not alone. For the first time in my life, I'm not alone. Now that's all on Zoom. Then a lot of these people, not a lot of these people, the max is going to be 25. They graduate. Some of them go up into what I call my Mastery Plus. It's a mirror of my old company I had called my Elite Group. And by the time was bought out of my company, I had people with me 16 years in this group on a quarterly basis, going to each other's locations. Well, I do a little different, restarted and going, everything's in Vegas 3 times a year, 2-day meetings, and it's magic. You can't explain the magic until you sat at the table. So we sit around a table, and I'll either teach or I bring in another speaker. You're going to be on the list here very soon. We have not finished talking about that. And they learn, and we round table. We go out to dinner together, and we exercise our livers together, and we start the meeting at 1:00 the next day because of that. And then it's just round table. It's whether I share something again, but we help each other. And it's just, you lob up the question, hey, I have a problem with the manager. I'm buying another location. Has anybody taken on partners? And everybody comes out of the woodwork, help each other, all with a growth mindset. And I'm going to tell you, it's magic. And I warned the people who joined. I said, I've already done this before. You're the new group. You're going to probably be here for life. It's very rarely, if you don't fit in, you may go away. But for the most part, this group, like, you guys pay me to be a part of your group. It's magic. It's unbelievable. So again, all too often as business owners, we're by ourselves. As restaurant owners, we're truly isolated, because the restaurant guy next to you may like, but you hope they die because they're taking your customers. You'll never share the best idea in the world that made you money. You won't do it. But when you've got people all over the nation who come together, you're not competitors. Man, it's just magic.
Yeah, I've said this. I had a meeting with my employees last week, a pretty in-depth meeting, about 4 hours. And she was frustrated with some things I had done, which was normal for me. But I said, you know what? One thing I hope you understand, it's lonely for me. Yeah. Like, I'm in a bubble in our building, even though I talk to a lot of people. Like, I'm in a different place than everybody else. And restaurant owners, I see it more than anything, because I'm in the marketing world, and it's masterminds are common. I'm in Miami next week for 5 days. Myself and 6 of my team are going to Miami. There's 300 people coming to 2 days, and then there's about 100 to the third day. But there's about 15 that I will hang out with a lot. and compare in-depth notes, conversations, motivation. I call it the cheat code. Like, hey man, what's your percentage of payroll? Because I don't have food costs, I have people costs.
Right.
What's your percentage of payroll to your sales? Like we go over that, and it's cool to see that because it helps you identify good, bad, ugly.
Yep.
But that to me, like what you talked about, this whole conversation there is all of these items are what I see as the dream outcome for businesses. I had a friend of mine recently who was struggling with some business. Another friend didn't understand it. I said, well, I can see it. He's been telling his significant other probably for 5 to 6 years that next year's the year. Next year's
Yep.
the year. And the shit never comes. I was there. We had our boat dealership for 8, 9 years. Like I told my wife, like, you know what, next year, we're going to have more money. The
Yep.
business is going to scale better. I'm going to be off more often. And it never freaking happened. And that's one of the things I talk to our team about is my goal is to have massive amounts of freedom to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. I want my employees to have that. But in order for me to get it, my employees got to get it. If my employees to get it, our clients got to get it.
Right.
And it's the same way I look here with the restaurants is that you need to have freedom from the restaurant, you need to have some financial freedom to live life, but you also need to be able to make enough money to employ the right people.
Right.
Because I think that's a problem a lot of restaurants have is they're settling for who they can afford versus the right person to take you out of the business.
And sometimes they had the right person, but they failed to train them what their job is, how to do it, how well it should be done, more important by when, coach them. They failed to, like, I always joke around. I go, hey, how many times you walked in your restaurant and said, oh, who's the idiot that did this? I said, I want to remind you something. You selected them. You hired them. You trained them. You manage them on a daily basis. I don't think we find idiots. I think we create idiots by not giving them structure, by not giving them our system, our process, our way, by not giving them good management, flexibility, good pay, all the things that has been a wake-up call because of COVID. People want to get the hell out of the restaurant business. We can't go back to the old way of everybody's just a number. You've got to take the time to be clear, specific, supportive, make sure they feel, appreciated. That's the big buzzword nowadays in any company is making sure your people feel appreciated. It's critical to your success.
I love it. I've heard you say that, like you created the idiot. That's more than likely true in a lot of places. I'm sure I've created my fair share of idiots. The fact that I'm an idiot and, systems and processes have been foreign a long time.
That's why we get along just fine, brother.
So final thing, May, you've decided to host the ultimate birthday party for me. Because
I didn't know it was your birthday. I should know by now, but I didn't know.
I figured you did the event in Vegas on May 17th because you're like, it's Matt's birthday. So tell everybody about the event coming up in May.
So for those of you who like to learn, everybody learns differently. You can buy my book and learn the systems. You can come to my seminar, learn my systems. You get my group coaching program. It's the same stuff. But what it allows you to do is get on an airplane in Las Vegas, May 17th and 18th. That's a Wednesday, Thursday. You're going to have an opportunity to learn everything you need to know in order to change your life, have freedom in your restaurant, and the financial freedom you deserve. I'm going to teach you the systems and give you the damn spreadsheets, the same exact things I provide my members in my high-end coaching program. The difference is you're not going to have me afterwards to kick you in the pants and make sure you keep moving forward. But it's a cost-effective way to get a team out there, a manager or managers, plural, get on the same page. And you attended my first one back since COVID this last time, and you look at the owners that brought their managers and the conversations and the light bulbs going off and the excitement about leaving the place going, we can fricking make change. Man, if you want, again, life outside your restaurant and have somebody who's actually going to get this shit done, that's what this workshop's all about. You're going to learn from leadership to budgeting, to proactive tools for purchasing and scheduling, to controlling labor and getting the most out of your management team. I mean, it's an intense 2 days.
I sat through it. Like one pet peeve I have when I go to events that I'm involved with, which I was honored that you asked me to come to the last one, and I'm stoked to come again this May. One pet peeve I have, because I've been to many of them, where the person scoots in, does their session, and gets the hell out. Like I don't do that. I like to sit through and listen and watch. And even though I'm not a restaurant operator, I'm sure I could find a way to say, oh, that works good for here in my business. I was blown away. And then even when I was having meals with the people before and after and hanging out, I was blown away by, like, they were like, man, like, I'm talking to guys at restaurants for 15, 20 years. Like, I've never heard of this shit. And it's scary, because the one guy told me, as a man, I'm kind of pissed now that I didn't know this 15 years ago. Like how many millions of dollars have went down the drain because I didn't understand accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards
Yeah.
and menu engineering. And it's cool to see. So if you're a restaurant out there, independent restaurant, highly, 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 highly recommend get your butt to Vegas. And we'll be doing some stuff from on our end. I'm going to market it. I got an idea. I got to call into a hotel out there. I'm going to put together a package at South Point Casino Resort and a little spa package and a thing I'm going to call like the ultimate, restaurant thing. I'm gonna have my team out there where we actually do like a day of meeting with them as well, before or
Cool.
after. So looking forward to doing like Matt's ultimate birthday package and, little combination of my team, combination of DSP. You can't go wrong.
Well, I hope that at least you're in Vegas on your birthday. I didn't know,
Well, hey.
man. I didn't know that I was giving you a gift to listen to me for, for 8 to 10 hours in a day.
Well, I'm stoked. I appreciate having you on today. Great time as always. I will see you soon, my friend.
Thanks, my friend.